December 17, 1996, Lima, Peru. At precisely 20:23 hours, the structural integrity of the Japanese ambassador's residence is compromised. A 5 by 4 foot explosive breach in the northeast adjoining wall allows 14 heavily armed operatives of the Túpac Amaru Revolutionary Movement, the MRTA, to bypass a multi-layered security cordon. Within minutes, the operational space transitions from a diplomatic reception to a barricaded hostage matrix. Armed with Uzi submachine guns, Browning pistols, and rocket-propelled grenades, the MRTA secures the perimeter and traps hundreds of high-value targets. For military strategists at the operative command of the internal front, the mathematical calculus of a hasty emergency assault is deemed catastrophic. The MRTA immediately establishes overlapping fields of fire and seeds the residence's exterior with improvised explosive booby traps. The crisis biorhythm, the physiological and tactical momentum of the siege, heavily favors the terrorists. In these initial hours, the terrorists successfully exploit the shock value of their takeover to achieve relative superiority. Through the intervention of International Red Cross negotiator Michel Minig, the MRTA makes a logistical calculation to release the women, children, and elderly, reducing their captive pool to 72 high-value male targets. This action effectively isolates the remaining hostages on the second story of the complex, streamlining the MRTA's security protocols, but simultaneously defining the precise tactical problem for the Peruvian National Intelligence Service, or SIN. President Alberto Fujimori recognizes that a conventional kinetic strike will result in unacceptable collateral damage. The resolution will require an unprecedented engineering solution, bypassing the terrestrial barricade entirely. The objective: strict containment of the operational space while a clandestine, subterranean infrastructure is constructed directly beneath the enemy's feet. The 126-day siege begins not with a counterattack, but with a methodical pivot toward technical intelligence gathering and geotechnical engineering. By late December, the SIN activates a highly classified geotechnical operation. 32 indigenous miners are covertly transported from the high-altitude Cerro de Pasco region to Lima. Operating out of adjacent residential properties, they initiate the excavation of a complex subterranean network. Their objective is to bore a tunnel system spanning from the safe houses, under the municipal streets, beneath the heavily mined perimeter wall, and directly under the foundation of the ambassador's residence. The structural engineering of this subterranean architecture is exact. 9 interconnecting tunnels are carved, each measuring precisely 1.5 meters in height, enough clearance for 2 assault operatives to move abreast while maintaining a low profile. The environment requires active ventilation, lighting, and rigid support beams to prevent a catastrophic cave-in. To maintain absolute operational security, the tunnel floors are lined with acoustic padding to absorb the kinetic energy of footsteps and falling soil. Furthermore, SIN operatives disguised as local gardeners extract soil samples from the perimeter to analyze the geological composition, allowing the Army Corps of Engineers to calibrate their excavation tools. The primary vulnerability of the excavation is acoustic detection. The electric pickaxes generate mechanical vibrations capable of alerting the MRTA sentries above. To neutralize this threat, the authorities deploy a massive acoustic camouflage operation. 12 industrial loudspeakers are erected around the compound's perimeter, broadcasting a tenora of deafening military marches, sirens, and loud music 24 hours a day. To the MRTA and the hostages, the noise is an agonizing psychological warfare tactic designed to induce sleep deprivation and sensory overload. However, its true clinical purpose is entirely functional. The auditory barrage perfectly masks the resonant frequencies of the subterranean drilling. The earth beneath the residence is slowly being hollowed out, cubic meter by cubic meter, completely undetected by the heavily armed captors pacing just inches above. The physical construction of the breach points requires perfect spatial awareness. The rescue force must know the exact coordinates of the terrorists to calculate the execution threshold. The SIN weaponizes the humanitarian supply chain, infiltrating over 800 miniature microphones and transmitters into the compound concealed within Red Cross deliveries. Hidden inside water thermoses, board games, Bibles, and a guitar. The intelligence collection requires an inside operator. Vice Admiral Luis Giampietri, a hostage and former naval commando, recognizes the covert hardware. Establishing a secure line of communication, Giampietri whispers critical human intelligence, HUMINT, into the bugged guitar while pretending to play, or reads aloud from a bugged Bible. To confirm the transmission link, Giampietri instructs the SIN to broadcast the song La Cucaracha over the perimeter loudspeakers immediately following the morning national anthem. When the song blares across the compound, the closed-loop intelligence network is validated. Giampietri initiates a disciplined daily cadence of 30 to 40 technical intelligence, or TechInt, transmissions. He maps the MRTA's security rotations, their armament distribution, and their psychological degradation. Crucially, the intelligence fusion reveals a systematic vulnerability in the terrorists' biorhythm. Every afternoon, at exactly 1500 hours, the MRTA's operational discipline degrades. 13 of the 14 terrorists converge on the ground floor dining room to play and spectate an indoor soccer game. This clustering of targets provides the operational commander with a precise geographic and temporal window of opportunity. The rescue force now possesses the exact variables required to design a highly localized, lethal breach. Designing the physical breach is a matter of severe structural constraints. At the Peruvian Army's Commando School in El Chorrillo, engineers construct a full-scale, two-story replica of the Japanese residence. Here, the 140 operatives of the Counter-Terrorist Task Force rehearse the close-quarter battle, or CQB, mechanics hundreds of times until the spatial geometry is committed to muscle memory. The most complex engineering challenge falls to the master breacher, Navy Commander Carlos Teo. The assault relies on a synchronized subterranean detonation directly beneath the dining room where the terrorists play soccer. Teo must calculate the exact concussive yield required to penetrate the concrete and floorboards, neutralizing the targets on the ground floor without compromising the load-bearing walls. If the charge is too large, the second story will suffer a catastrophic structural collapse, crushing the 72 hostages above. Teo bypasses conventional military ordnance, opting instead to build improvised shaped charges. He packs plastic explosives and lethal shrapnel into standard utility buckets. These devices are mounted upside down against the ceiling of the subterranean tunnels, ensuring the blast vector is channeled violently and strictly upwards. The explosive yield is calibrated with surgical precision. On the eve of the operation, President Fujimori requests that the explosive yield be doubled to guarantee maximum terrorist casualties. Understanding the physics of the structure, Commander Teo flatly refuses the presidential order, knowing the resulting overpressure would bring the entire embassy down. The mathematics of the breach are locked in. The margin for error is 0. April 22, 1997. Day 126 of the siege. The crisis biorhythm has reached its critical tipping point. The MRTA's operational vigilance has degraded under the psychological strain of the protracted standoff. Beneath the compound, 140 highly trained operators of Team Alpha and Team Delta slide into the padded 1.5-meter-high tunnels. They stage directly beneath the floorboards of the dining room. Above them, they can hear the heavy footsteps of the terrorists engaging in their daily soccer match. The rules of engagement require absolute synchronization. Inside the residence, Admiral Giampietri receives a covert pager alert. He immediately utilizes the clandestine communications network to instruct the hostages to don light-colored clothing and stay low to the floor. In the chaotic seconds of a CQB assault, this visual modifier will allow the entry teams to instantly distinguish the non-combatants from the terrorists, who are wearing dark fatigues. At 15:14 hours, Giampietri confirms the target clustering. 13 of the 14 MRTA operatives are localized on the first floor. He keys the micro-transmitter hidden in his guitar and broadcasts the final execution code. Mary está enferma. Mary is sick. Deep in the subterranean tactical operations centers, the status lights shift from red to green. The explosive charges are primed. The operators brace against the earthen walls, awaiting the violent physics of the breach that will shatter the 126-day stalemate in a matter of milliseconds. At exactly 15:23 hours, the acoustic camouflage transitions into kinetic reality. 3 synchronized, shaped charges detonate beneath the dining room, living room, and kitchen. The blast vector performs exactly as calculated by Commander Teo. A concussive wave of explosive force and shrapnel punches violently upward through the floorboards. 4 MRTA terrorists are neutralized instantly in the eruption. Several others are severely disoriented by the overpressure and choking dust. The load-bearing walls of the second story hold firm. Before the debris can settle, the wooden covers of the subterranean tunnels are thrown aside. Team Alpha erupts from the craters in the floor, flooding the first level in a textbook execution of close-quarter battle. Simultaneously, Team Delta executes an explosive breach of the exterior, scaling the walls to secure the second story. The element of complete surprise, compounded by months of spatial rehearsal in the El Chorrillo mock-up, affords the surviving terrorists no time to react. The commandos clear the geometry of the residence room by room, applying precise, discriminatory fires to eliminate the remaining targets while physically shielding the captives. The entire extraction is accomplished in 32 minutes of controlled, surgical violence. Tragically, 2 commandos, Colonel Juan Valer and Captain Raúl Jiménez, lay down their lives, and 1 hostage perishes in the chaos. But all 14 MRTA terrorists are neutralized, and 71 of the 72 hostages are extracted alive. Operation Chavín de Huántar stands as a masterclass in hostage rescue doctrine, an impossible subterranean siege won through the precise application of geotechnical engineering, absolute acoustic deception, and the weaponization of time.